Good morning. So, I'm recording this to talk about an individual that's been in the news a whole lot. We're hearing a whole lot about, and maybe not a lot of us have a lot of fact about. So, would like to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his emergence into American politics and his candidacy to become the next president of the United States of America. Now, I've seen a lot of conservatives and Christians rallying around Donald Trump, which, as a Christian, surprises me. See, I was raised in church, and my father is a Southern Baptist minister, and as a Christian, I teach my child certain things: what it is to be a human being, what it is to have integrity, what it is to be respectful, humility. It's a big one. Things that Donald Trump just does not represent. So my first question would be, if it's not good enough for our children, why would it be okay for our president? This is the highest office in the world, and it's the person that our kids are going to see a whole lot of. They're going to look up to. They're going to think that what this person does and says is the example by which they should live. We're angry about a lot of things. We're angry that government seems more interested in making money than it does in helping us to have better lives. We always rail against the lack of transparency in the government. Yet, we're looking at electing a man whose only qualification is making money and whose businesses have given us no transparency, as evidenced by not releasing Donald Trump's tax returns. So now people don't think that that's a big deal. If his only qualification is making money, then I would say that his tax returns are his resume. Now, would you hire someone at your company without seeing their resume? His tax returns will give us detailed insight into his business relationships, how much money he's paid in taxes. He did stand on the debate stage and say that not paying taxes made him smart. While he's going to be the head of state that wants us to pay our taxes? So if you're smart for not paying taxes, does that make all of us stupid for paying them? Sounds like it does. Other things that have just gone on, his insults of a Gold Star family, for instance. He compared his sacrifice in business to their sacrifice of losing a loved one overseas in the military. Now, after a few days, he came around and he said that they deserve to be honored and respected. But it took you a few days to come to that conclusion, Donald? That should have been your immediate reaction. Hate to use the word impulse with you, but it should have been the first thing that came to mind, been the first thing that came to your heart. So, as president, I don't need, and we don't need a president that someone has to tell that they've behaved badly and need to correct their behavior. They need to know it on their own. They need to think before they speak. That's another thing I teach my child. Whether, and hopefully you teach your children the same, whether they're Christian or Muslim, Hindu, you teach them to think before they speak. Because their words can have consequences. Other things that just, the continued lies, the birther comments. So he gives himself credit for having brought an end to the birther question and saying that it was an aide of Hillary Clinton, Sidney Blumenthal, that brought the birther question up in the first place. Now, if that's the case, I don't know about it. And how I learned about the birther conspiracy was from Donald Trump, because I'm 37 years old and I remember it. I remember seeing him out there pumping this idea into the mainstream that Barack Obama was not born in the U.S. I remember seeing it in 2011 and 2012 and 2013, 2014, 2015, and even into the beginning of this year in 2016, until it began to affect him negatively on the presidential campaign trail. Then he wants to come out and just shut it down and doesn't want to get asked questions about it. But then also, in front of 100 million people on a stage, gives a rambling, incoherent response to a legitimate question. The birth certificate was given in 2011. He continued to push this conspiracy theory into the mainstream for 5 more years. Now, what would be his motivation for that? Who knows? To delegitimize the first African American president? Just because he needed something to do and wanted to pump hate towards someone? Who knows? But to say that he didn't do it, when I was there to see it, and I recall it, I don't need the media, I don't need a moderator, I don't need Hillary Clinton to tell me that it happened. I was there. And you were too. He's courting minorities now. I've seen him in black churches, wrapped in prayer shawls. People laying hands on this man, praying for him. Now that's good, I pray for him as well. But when was the last time he walked into a black church before he had something to gain from doing so? Can you tell me? Can he tell me? And he wants to say that he's going to change the lives of minorities for the better, but yet talks about law and order, and his only proposed remedy for law and order is to re-implement an unconstitutional stop and frisk policy. Now, who knows what stop and frisk is? Some people don't. I mean, hopefully you can infer from those 3 words, but it's basically where law enforcement officers can stop you at any time for no reason whatsoever, without probable cause. Meaning they don't need to smell marijuana on you, they don't need to see you acting funny, they don't need you to have expired tags on your car or one headlight out. They can just pull you over or stop you on the street for the way you look and search you head to toe. Now, why am I worried about it? I mean, white as it gets. You think it's me they're going to be stopping on the street? Nope. It's my friends in the African American community, the Hispanic community, Asian community. It's minorities who live in parts of town that law enforcement would deem high in crime or higher in crime. This is the first step towards a police state. Also, let's look at Donald Trump's view on protesters. I believe he called during the primary campaigns, he called protesters professional agitators or professional disruptors. Now, I thought that protesting was our right based upon the Constitution. So now we're talking about 2 major concerning things that Donald Trump is a proponent of being unconstitutional. He's not a fan of protesting, and he is a fan of stop and frisk. I mean, these are questions you need to start asking yourself. Does he really believe these things? Can we take a chance on him believing these things? And right now, it's irrelevant somewhat because he doesn't have any power. But when you elect him as president of the United States of America, you give him the power. If needed, a president of the United States can be given emergency power, which I would not want to see Donald Trump have. We talk about his finances, 3 bankruptcies. I've read his book, Get Rich, read The Art of the Deal. He talks about his insatiable greed. You can never be too greedy. He also talks about the way we how did he get out of bankruptcy? Talks about the way he got out of bankruptcy. He took these banks that he owed ridiculous amounts of money to. At one point, they estimate he was as much as $9 billion upside down. He says he remembers walking down the street and seeing a bum on the side of the street and knowing that bum was worth $9 billion more than he was. And apologize for the use of the word bum. A homeless person, or as say in the Pacific Northwest, an outdoors person. And what he did was he met with these bankers that he owed money to, and he renegotiated terms to pay them back pennies on the dollar. He did it by wining and dining them and sending them on trips to his casinos and resorts with their money. And he's talked about how he would do that with the U.S. debt. He would borrow and borrow and borrow, and then when it was too much to pay back, he would go to these banks, foreign banks, which he rails against. Banks in China, Swiss banks, and he would negotiate down the debt. I think that extensive borrowing is what Greece did that got it into a whole lot of trouble and almost brought down the global economy. A small little country on the other side of the world. Imagine what would happen if that was America. To argue on a debate stage that he has the temperament of a president, that he's a better temperament than Hillary Clinton, that he has an exemplary temperament. He does have a temperament, and as he said of Hillary Clinton, she has experience, but it's bad experience. Yes, Donald Trump, you have a temperament, and it is a tremendously terrible temperament. There's just some of the many things that are concerning. Also, I have a daughter that I try to empower, that she can be anything she wants. What would you do if Donald Trump said to your daughter some of the things that he has said to other women about other women, and then continued to justify those comments and that treatment of them? I know I wouldn't react well to someone treating my daughter that way. We as Americans have been taught that what makes us great, what makes us powerful, is to stand up in the face of anyone telling us what we should do and how we should do it and say, forget you, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not doing that just because you told me to. And in many ways, that's part of what we're doing right now. We're railing against, establishment politics and politicians, pushing back. And we're being told, don't vote for this man. Oh, that's going to embolden us. We're definitely going to do it now. But look how many people, scientists, politicians, artists, people around the world are coming out and see the danger that someone with his temperament poses in a position with such great power. Maybe this is the one point as Americans where we should actually listen. If we see that words and actions don't match up, ask questions. Pray, think, study, vote. Do all of these things. Do your homework.